Welcome to the Chronicles of a Cheating Wife channel. A new story every day. Don't forget to subscribe. I'm standing at the stove, a spatula in my hand, flipping bacon that crackles in the pan. It's a Saturday morning. Gray clouds pressing low against the sky, barely allowing any daylight through the kitchen window. The forecast said we'd get rain later, maybe a thunderstorm, and that matches the electric buzz at the edges of my nerves. My chest feels tight. Goosebumps rise along my arms, but not from the chill in the air. I feel them because I'm making breakfast for two people, the two people who tore my reality into pieces last night. I'd heard them stirring in the guest bedroom upstairs, the door quietly clicking shut. Now I imagine them, probably listening to each other breathe, while I crack eggs into a glass bowl and whisk them. In 15 years of marriage, I never thought I'd be making scrambled eggs for my wife's lover. Yet here I am. And the worst part is that it's my choice, my small way of regaining the sense of control. A piece of me wants them to taste every ounce of tension in the salted butter. I want them to choke on guilt as they sip the coffee I just brewed. I try to keep my breathing steady. Bacon sizzles. The spatula taps the edge of the pan. My wedding band glints under the overhead light, a sad reminder of what I believed marriage was supposed to be: trust, devotion, a shared future. That ring used to mean something. Now it's a ring of irony. Upstairs, I hear the faint sounds of water running. The shower. My gut churns. I swallow, force a calm exhale. I need to finish the eggs before they come down. I wonder if they're showering together. The thought blindsides me with a surge of nausea. I stir faster. My shoulders tighten, and a bead of sweat trickles down my temple. I can almost taste the bitterness coating my tongue. I set out 2 plates on the table. The third is mine. I've laid out toast and jam, bacon, eggs, a small dish of fruit, strawberries, blueberries, slices of pineapple. Visually, it's a perfect spread, like a scene from a commercial. But every knife, every fork, every piece of cutlery feels like a weapon. This is step 1 in my plan. Let them believe I'm calm. Let them sense nothing but a willingness to be the perfect host. I'll feed them. I'll watch them eat, as if we are 3 strangers sharing a polite morning. Footsteps on the stairs. Her voice, hushed, saying something I don't catch. His deeper laugh in response. My pulse thumps in my neck. The spatula handle squeaks in my grip. I lay it down carefully, smooth my hands on my jeans, and turn off the burner. I place the steaming eggs on the center of the table, next to the bacon. They come into the kitchen together. My wife, Jane, wears a long robe wrapped around her like a fragile shield. Her cheeks are flushed pink. She glances at me with a tentative smile that barely lifts the corners of her lips. I watch her put one hand on her collarbone, almost as if checking if her heart is still there. Her eyes look everywhere but at mine. My chest tightens again as I recall how we used to meet each other's gaze across the same kitchen. Her eyes so bright back then. Behind her is Michael Rivers, known simply as Mike. He's a couple of years younger than I am. Athletic, in that casual way that says he can stay lean and strong without putting in half the effort I do. Dark hair, a bit messy from the shower. He's wearing one of my t-shirts, the letters of a faded sports team stretched across his chest. My jaw clenches. I force myself to look away before I do something impulsive. Morning, I say, my voice low, level. It's a greeting I've offered 1,000 times in this house, but never under these circumstances. They respond quietly. Jane goes around to the far side of the table, pulling the belt of her robe tighter. Mike half smiles at me, an awkward twist of lips that's more forced than polite. He's probably trying to figure out if I'm about to lash out, or if I've somehow forgiven them. Little does he know, this is only the beginning. We sit. The chairs scrape the floor. Rain starts spattering against the window. The tension throbs in the silence, thick enough to slice like the bacon. Jane clears her throat and thanks me for cooking, but her voice breaks on the second syllable. My stomach twists. Mike reaches for the coffee pot. I appreciate this, Ron, he says, as if we're two buddies after a late night out. That's exactly the tone he'd use if we were co-workers instead of two men bound by a betrayal. I nod at him, setting my jaw so tight it starts to ache. Inside my mind, images from last night replay in vivid detail. I'd come home early, hoping to surprise Jane. She was always hinting that I spent too much time at work. And I agreed. I wanted to give us a fresh start. So I came home, arms full of groceries, a plan to cook a nice dinner, maybe watch a movie with her. I found her in our bedroom. Bare skin, parted lips, that luminous flush she used to reserve for me, wrapped in the arms of a man I'd only seen from a distance once or twice. I recognized him immediately. The man from her phone calls that always ended abruptly whenever I walked into the room. I remember stepping back out of sight. My heart pounded so loud, I was surprised they didn't hear it. I should have burst in, screaming. I should have thrown him out the window or confronted them on the spot. But I froze. Maybe it was the shock, or maybe I was analyzing 1,000 scenarios in that single second. My background in finance taught me to weigh options under stress, but that knowledge does nothing for you when your soul is on fire. I simply lurked outside the half-open door, hands trembling, groceries cutting into my palms. I heard her soft moan. I watched them, a swirl of sweaty limbs and stolen kisses. I saw the arch of her back, the way she clung to him. That was all the proof I needed. The humiliation seared into me so deep, I felt something snap inside my mind, but I didn't charge in. Instead, I backed away, left the groceries on the kitchen counter. I sat in my car for a full hour, thinking about how trust dies. The first step is suspicion, I'd always heard. But no, the first step is letting the illusions fade. The illusions that your spouse would never betray you. The illusions that your marriage is unbreakable. The illusions that love can conquer everything. In that hour, I orchestrated what might be the darkest plan of my life. A calm, calculated takedown of the person I thought was my other half and the man who had invaded my home. So I forced a smile when I walked back in later that night. I pretended I hadn't seen anything. I observed the tension in her posture, her hair still damp from a hurried shower. I observed how he pretended to be some old friend crashing on our couch. And I said, "Sure, stay the night." I said it with a voice that held enough false kindness to keep them from suspecting me. That was step one. Now here we are, the morning after. Step two is letting them see me docile, as if I'm a helpless fool who can't possibly suspect a thing. I want them to step onto that thin ice right before I crack it. And I plan to watch them sink. Because yes, I feel a monstrous side of me I never knew existed. A side that wants them to pay for every second of agony that scorched through me. Mike tries to talk about the rain. Jane tries to make small comments about how she didn't expect a storm this morning. I stab at my eggs, barely tasting them. My coffee sits untouched. Finally, I can't bear the silence any longer. "I got some errands to run," I announce, pushing my chair back. My voice feels almost mechanical. "I won't be long. You two enjoy yourselves. Make yourselves at home." Jane's eyes flick up. She's trying to read me, gauge my tone. Her pupils dilate with what looks like concern or shame. "Ron, are you sure you're okay?" I meet her gaze. The old me might have softened, might have told her I love her, might have kissed her forehead. But that old me died last night. "I'm fine," I say flatly, letting silence press between each word. "Eat your breakfast." She swallows and nods, not saying more. Mike sets down his fork, glances at me with a weird mixture of gratitude and guilt. It takes everything in me not to let out a bitter laugh. They think I'm being nice. They think I'm just oblivious, or maybe just gracious. Step two is working perfectly. I head to the garage, slip into my car. Rain picks up, hammering the roof. The engine roars to life. But I don't pull out of the driveway. Instead, I watch the rearview mirror, waiting to see if either of them runs outside. Maybe to confess, maybe to tell me the truth. After a minute, I realize they're not going to follow. They're staying inside, probably to discuss how to handle this awkward morning. I blow out a breath, feel the tremor in my hands. My chest is like a furnace of anger, but I keep it contained. I back out and drive into the wet streets, windshield wipers slapping away the heavy droplets. I have no real errands. I just need to be away, to give them time to get comfortable. If I'm gone, they can talk freely. Maybe they'll rationalize that I'm a clueless husband who can't see how close they are. That's exactly what I want. The roads glisten with puddles. I pass the old pharmacy, the gas station, and a small coffee shop where Jane and I used to sit on weekends. We'd hold hands across the table and talk about our two boys' soccer schedules, about next year's vacation. A wave of nausea hits me. How did we get here? She was my partner, the mother of my children, the woman I believed would share my entire life. I replay those older memories and feel a stab of regret for not paying closer attention. Maybe I missed some sign. Maybe I didn't provide enough romance. But then I remember the sight of her with him, skin pressed to skin, the moan that wasn't for me. And all the sorrow turns to a hot brand of rage. Time crawls. I stop at a hardware store just to have a reason to be out. I circle the aisles, picking up random items. New light bulbs, a tape measure, nails. Anything that might conceal my real state of mind from the outside. My thoughts revolve around how I'm going to proceed. The second step was feigned ignorance and a show of hospitality. Step 3 will be the final blow. The direct confrontation that shatters their illusions. But it has to come at the right moment. If I rush it, I lose the advantage of surprise. My father always told me to measure twice, cut once. He was talking about carpentry, but I learned to apply it to everything. Eventually, the store's overhead lights feel too bright, and the smell of lumber is suffocating. I buy the worthless items in my cart and head out. The storm is in full swing, lightning flashing in the distance, thunder rumbling across the clouds. Perfect weather for this day. I drive back carefully, rehearsing the words in my head. How I'll orchestrate the final confrontation. The image of Jane in bed with him flickers over and over, like a stuck tape reel. My blood pumps faster, but I keep my exterior calm. It's a skill I learned in corporate negotiations. Never show your cards until the moment is right. When I pull into the driveway, I see Mike's car is still there. My chest constricts. A flicker of light in the living room window reveals they haven't left. They must be biding their time, feeling awkward, or maybe planning how they'll slip away from me. Well, they're not slipping anywhere until I'm ready. I step inside, set my new hardware items on the kitchen counter. The house is quiet, except for the steady drumming of rain on the roof. Then I hear voices from the living room. I move closer, pretending to rummage in a drawer. Jane, I can't do this anymore. We've got to tell him. He's going to figure it out if he hasn't already. Mike, I know, but maybe he won't. You saw him this morning. He acted normal, right? Jane, not normal. He seemed too calm. It's suspicious. Mike, let's just get through the day. We'll figure out a plan. I can practically hear Jane's heart pounding in her voice. I decide to make my presence known. I emerge with the nails in hand, as if I'm just passing through on my way to the garage. Oh hey, I keep my tone neutral. Everything all right? Mike stands up abruptly, nearly bumping his knee on the coffee table. Jane laces her hands together, fidgeting. If I didn't know the truth, I'd think they were two guilty teenagers, afraid of being caught sneaking around. Because that's exactly what they are. Everything's fine, Mike says a bit too quickly. We were just, talking about the weather. Crazy storm. Jane shifts awkwardly. Ron, honey, did you manage to run your errands? Her forced lightness grates on me. She never used to talk to me like a stranger. Yes, I say. All done. My eyes linger on her face just long enough to let her know I suspect something. Then I pivot and head to the garage. leaving them in silence. Let them stew a bit more. I climbed the rickety steps in the garage up to a small attic storage area. The pounding of rain echoes in the rafters. Boxes line the walls, marked with old memories. Photos, kids' baby clothes, holiday decorations. I flip on a single dangling bolt and stand there, leaning against a support beam, my mind buzzing with decisions. Part of me wants to expose them both in front of my entire neighborhood. Another part wants a quieter form of revenge, one that stings deeper than public humiliation. Something that will follow them, press down on their consciences. I think about my sons. They're away this weekend on a camping trip with Jane's parents. Mercifully, they won't see any of this. One day, they'll ask why everything changed. I'll have to decide how much truth to share. My chest tightens at the idea of them losing respect for their mother. But at the same time, I can't let her off the hook. Trust was a cornerstone of what we built, and she smashed it with a single thoughtless act. Or maybe it wasn't a single act. Maybe it's been weeks, months, or longer. I dig through an old box, searching for something to keep my hands busy. I find an old photo of me and Jane from our honeymoon. She looks so radiant, her smile open and genuine. I look so happy, arms around her shoulders, wearing cargo shorts and a t-shirt that said, "I'm with my love." I was never much for flashy sentiments, but that shirt was my playful way of telling the world I was proud of her. I tear my eyes away from the photo, toss it aside, and slam the box shut. That past version of me no longer exists. I head back inside. Now I'm ready to set step 3 into motion. The house is quiet. I find them in the living room, each on opposite ends of the couch, too much space between them to seem natural. The storm outside flickers with lightning again, illuminating Mike's tense jawline and Jane's worried brow. "Could you both come into the kitchen?" I say, my voice steady. "I need to speak with you." Jane's eyes flick up. Mike looks uneasy. They follow me, footsteps hesitant, as though I'm leading them to an interrogation. Which, in a sense, I am. The overhead light in the kitchen is bright, shining off the stainless steel appliances. I lean against the counter, crossing my arms. "So," I begin, "I'd like to talk about last night." Jane's face goes pale. Mike shifts his weight from foot to foot, glancing at her. She lowers her eyes, then opens her mouth, nothing coming out at first. Finally, she tries. "Ron, Let me speak," I interrupt, holding up a hand. "I came home early from work. I heard noises upstairs. I went to investigate. I saw you together." I pause, letting the words land like hammer blows. "You were in our bed." Her breathing hitches, and I see tears start to form. Mike hangs his head, his lips pressed thin. He's at least not denying it. Good. Let them feel the weight of what they did. I push off the counter. My voice shakes, partly with anger, partly with an odd calm. I saw everything. I heard everything. And I want to know, did you think I was that stupid or blind not to see the signs? Or did you just not care? Jane's tears spill over, but she tries to speak. "Ron, I'm so sorry. It wasn't planned this way. We didn't mean." Mike clears his throat, stepping forward. "Look, man, I didn't come here intending to disrespect you like that. It just happened." My chest feels like it's on fire. "It just happened," I echo bitterly. "That's what you're telling me. You drove here from your place, walked into my home, took my wife into my bedroom. And it just happened." My voice sharpens, each word spat like broken glass. He rubs the back of his neck, no better excuse forthcoming. Jane wipes her eyes and says, "I never wanted to hurt you. I swear, Ron. I felt lonely. You were always at work. And Mike, he was there. He listened to me. It started with conversations, and then it escalated." I let out a bitter chuckle, turning my gaze to the ceiling as the lights flicker. Thunder rattles the windows. "You felt lonely," I repeat softly. "So your solution was to destroy everything we built." She looks down, fresh tears dripping onto the tile floor. Mike tries to place a comforting hand on her shoulder, but I shoot him a glare, and he backs off. A flicker of some protective rage stirs in me. For a second, I want to lunge at him, slam him against the wall. But I keep my fists at my side. My father used to say violence is the last resort of a man who's run out of words. And right now, I have words. I look Jane directly in the eye. You could have talked to me. You could have demanded couples therapy, or a separation if it was that bad. But you brought this man into my bed. You shared with him what was meant for us. She sobs, a raw sound that bounces off the kitchen walls. Mike looks cornered, guilt clear in the tense set of his jaw. I realize part of me wants them to squirm in the filth of their betrayal. Another part of me feels nauseated. I loved this woman for 15 years. She's the mother of my kids. Seeing her this broken isn't as satisfying as I'd imagined. But I won't let pity soften me. Mike tries to speak again. Ron, I accept full responsibility, okay? I know I crossed a line. I'll go. I'll leave you two-toe. I'm not done, I say quietly, stepping closer. My voice is cold. You won't get off that easily. You see, I've thought about this. You and Jane aren't just going to say sorry and vanish. You want to know what I did last night, while you were both asleep. I watched their faces pale. I contacted my lawyer. I asked about what happens if I file for divorce and cite infidelity. And you know what he said? In our state, that has consequences for custody arrangements, financial settlements, the works. Jane's lips part, eyes wide. Ron, please, we can talk about this. I don't want to drag the boys into a nasty legal battle. I lean in, letting her see the anger radiate in my eyes. Should have thought about that before you let him into our bed. Then I turn to Mike. And you. You think you can waltz off with no repercussions. Maybe I'll have a chat with your employer. Let them know about your moral character. A small scandal in your professional life might set you back a few years. Maybe I'll go public. Maybe I'll record every humiliating detail. Or maybe I won't. It's up to me, isn't it? He flinches, color draining from his cheeks. Look, that's not fair. It's between you and Jane. I let out a short, harsh laugh. Is that so? Then why'd you come into my house, wearing my t-shirt, eating my breakfast, and sleeping with my wife? You made it my business. Now, it's your problem too. Lightning flashes again outside, thunder cracking close enough to rattle the dishes in the sink. Jane sobs. Ron, I know you're furious, and you have every right to be. But please, let's talk calmly. Calm. I snap. You want calm. After I watched you betray me, after you humiliated me, you have no idea what it felt like, standing there last night, seeing what I saw. My tone wavers between furious and heartbreak. I realize tears are stinging at the corners of my eyes. My voice drops lower, trembling. Do you have any idea what it does to a man? To see his wife arching beneath another man's touch, moaning his name, giving him everything that used to belong to me. You destroyed me in that moment, Jane. I see her knees threaten to buckle. She clutches the edge of the counter. Mike stares at the floor. No words left. My heart hammers, and I take a ragged breath, forcing myself to think. My mind conjures that final step. How do I wrap this up in a way that will truly make them understand what they've done? I jerk my head at Mike. Get out. Go wait in your car. I need to talk to my wife alone. If you don't, I'll break your jaw. He nods quickly, tears in his own eyes now. Ron, I'm sorry. I never wanted. He stops when he sees my expression. Then he stumbles out of the kitchen, grabbing his coat. A moment later, the front door opens and slams shut, and we hear the sound of him jogging through the pounding rain toward his vehicle. Jane stands there, trembling. The overhead light flickers again, a roll of thunder rumbling. Ron, please. I hold up my hand again, my voice low. I'm not sure there's a way back for us. You shattered every piece of trust. I can't pretend. I can't forget what I saw. She steps closer, tears streaming. I know. I can't undo it. I was so caught up in my own feelings. I didn't see how deeply I'd wound you. I wish I could erase it. But it's done. And I'm begging you. Think of our boys. They need both of us. I stare at her, searching her face. The worn lines, the genuine regret. She's obviously destroyed by guilt. But part of me can't forget how she gasped for him in our bedroom, how her nails raked his shoulders. It's like an invasive memory replaying in my head. I close my eyes and let out a shaking breath. Outside, the rain intensifies, wind rattling the windows in the living room. Here's what's going to happen. I finally say, you're going to pack a bag. I'm not looking at you or talking to you again today. Then you'll leave with him. Both of you. Out of my house. Go stay wherever you want. But tonight, you're not staying under this roof. Her face contorts, fresh agony in her eyes. Ron, no. Let's talk more. We can't just. I said go. I snap, voice harsh. I can't stand looking at you right now. She presses her lips together, nods shakily, and then heads upstairs. I stand in the center of the kitchen, my arms folded, the tightness in my chest refusing to ease. I want to punch a wall or smash every plate in the cabinet, but I resist. Above me, I hear her moving around in the bedroom we once shared, rummaging in the closet. I wonder if the sheets still smell like him. That thought squeezes a new wave of nausea into my gut. She comes down carrying a small duffel. Her eyes are swollen, her hands shaking. I step aside so she can pass. She pauses, meeting my gaze one last time. But I give her nothing. No warmth, no pity, only silence. Her lower lip quivers. Then she slips into the hallway, out the front door, and into the storm. I'm alone now. Step 3 is done. I confronted them, forced them to face the ugliness. I should feel relief, but all I sense is a hollow ache. The wind howls, and I walk to the living room window. I see her climbing into Mike's car. She closes the passenger door. He starts the engine. Headlights glare across the wet driveway. And then they pull away, vanishing into the gray curtain of rain. I stand there, shoulders sagging. A part of me wants to drag her back, demand an explanation that will somehow numb my pain. But I know there's no explanation that could fix this. A wave of emotion swells in my chest, and I sink onto the couch, burying my face in my hands. My breath comes in jagged bursts. The storm outside matches the one inside my heart, lightning flickering, thunder rumbling. The house feels emptier than ever. Hours crawl by. The storm eventually passes. The day fades into dusk. The silence in the house is oppressive. I'm not used to this stillness. Usually Jane might be cooking or chatting on the phone. The boys might be playing video games in the den. Now it's just me, 4 walls, and the ticking of the clock. I wander aimlessly, checking my phone for messages. Nothing from Jane. I wonder where they went. Maybe they found a hotel. A wave of bitterness churns again. She's probably with him, comforting each other, or feeling guilty. I can't decide which possibility hurts worse. My mind drifts to the next steps. Am I really going to file for divorce? My lawyer is always an option. But do I want to tear everything apart in a swirl of paperwork and legal battles? Our boys would be the ultimate victims. Then I think about revenge, a deeper revenge than just throwing them out. Something that would last, something that would ensure they can't ignore the consequences. That night, I sleep in our bed alone. I can't stand the stench of betrayal in the sheets, so I rip them off and toss them in a pile. I find an old blanket in the closet. The mattress feels foreign. I stare at the ceiling for hours, feeling waves of anger, sorrow, longing, regret. My stomach churns with half-formed ideas of how to strike back. In the morning, I dress in a suit. It's Sunday, but my office building has 24-hour access. I need the distraction. I drive to work, ignoring the drizzle that replaced yesterday's storm. and enter the silent corridors leading to my floor. I boot up my computer, flipping through emails as if it's any normal day. But nothing is normal. Not anymore. The hush of the empty office draws out my thoughts. I keep hearing Jane's voice in my head, the way she apologized. I recall the raw heartbreak on her face. A flicker of guilt stirs in me. Maybe I was too merciless. Yet I can't bring myself to regret it. She broke the vows we swore. She let another man inside our life. Nothing will ever erase that image from my mind. The hours blur. I hardly notice the hunger in my stomach until late afternoon. Finally, I push away from the desk and close my eyes, a throbbing headache building behind them. My phone vibrates. I see Jane's name. I hesitate, then answer. Her voice is soft, hesitant. "Ron, I'm so sorry. I know you hate me right now. I'm at a friend's place. Can we meet somewhere? I need to talk to you about the kids, about everything." My jaw tightens. "Fine. Tomorrow, 4 p.m., the coffee shop on 5th. Our usual place." She agrees, sounding relieved. I end the call without a goodbye. My heart hammers. I'll see her again. What will I say? That night, the house feels like a gaping wound. I order takeout, but barely touch it. Instead, I pace through the living room. My mind conjures images of Jane's tear-streaked face and Mike's ashamed expression. Eventually, I go to bed early, hoping to outrun my thoughts and sleep. But sleep is elusive. When I do doze off, I dream of them together, the memory spliced with nightmares of being locked outside my own home, forced to watch a twisted reflection of my family life from behind glass. Monday arrives with gray skies. At 3:45 p.m., I'm at the coffee shop, sitting in a corner booth. The windows reveal pedestrians hurrying by under umbrellas. The place is warm, though smells of espresso and baked goods. I sip a black coffee, my stomach in knots. This used to be our weekend spot. We'd chat about the boys, about bills, about dinner plans. Now it's a battleground for my emotions. At exactly 4 p.m., Jane appears at the door. She spots me and hesitates, then takes a deep breath and walks over. I notice she's wearing simple jeans, a sweater, no makeup except a hint of mascara. Her eyes are puffy, as though she's been crying. She slips into the seat opposite me. A server approaches, but she declines to order anything. That speaks volumes. Jane always used to get a latte with caramel drizzle. "Ron," she begins, voice shaky, "I won't ask you to forgive me. But I do want to talk about how we move forward for the kids, for ourselves. If we're getting divorced, we need a plan." I take a slow sip, letting the bitter coffee ground me. I haven't decided. Part of me wants to sign those papers tomorrow. Another part of me. I trail off, feeling a swirl of complicated emotions. Another part can't believe this is my life now. She nods, tears welling up. I know. It's unbearable. I wish I could take it back, but I can't. If you want to proceed with the divorce, I understand. I'll do anything to make it as easy on the boys as possible. A flicker of hope and heartbreak tangles inside me. What about him? Are you leaving me for him? Or was this just some fling? She bites her lip, glances down at her hands. I don't know. I care about him, but the past few days have shown me how destructive this all is. I feel like I'm losing everything. I run a hand over my face. My voice trembles with barely contained anger. You didn't think of that before. She nods, shame flushing her cheeks. I was selfish. I'm not going to deny it. But it happened, and now I have to face what I've done. I want to lash out again, but I hold back. The coffee shop chatter is a reminder that we're in public, two ordinary people struggling with an extraordinary betrayal. My shoulders slump, exhaustion soaking into my bones. Let's talk about the kids, I say at last. They should be back tomorrow evening. We need to figure out what we tell them. She sniffles. I don't want them to know the details. We can just say we're going through a rough patch, but we still love them. For now, maybe I should stay with my friend. or even a hotel. They shouldn't see us at each other's throats. I nod, my throat tight. That might be best. She reaches across the table, lightly touches my hand, and I flinch away as though burned. Her face crumples. I'm so sorry, she whispers. I know those words are nothing. But I am. My eyes sting. I look away, focusing on a photograph on the wall. A beach scene, ironically reminiscent of places I once dreamed of taking her. The feeling of betrayal seeps through my veins. After a moment, I stand. I can't do this here. I'll call you tomorrow about the kids. She rises too, looking like she wants to hug me. I give her no chance. I walk out into the drizzle, letting the cold droplets wash over me. My heart thuds against my ribs. How do I exact revenge when all I feel is a bottomless ache? Maybe the revenge has already begun. She's living the consequence of her actions, cast out from our home, separated from the boys. The guilt alone might be more punishment than anything legal or financial I could impose, but I'm not sure that's enough. Part of me wants to see Mike humiliated too. He's the intruder. He made a choice to be with a married woman. I realize I can tip off his boss or his colleagues, share the juicy scandal, or I can do something else, something more direct. I think of how easily I can sabotage him in small ways. I have connections. I know people in finance and media. A dark thrill pulses in me at the idea of seeing him blacklisted from certain circles, struggling to find decent freelance work. That night, I do something I never do. I pour a stiff drink of whiskey and sit in the dark living room, scrolling on my phone. I find Mike's professional profile. He's an editor at a digital media company that's well known around here. My thumb hovers over the screen. If I send an anonymous message to the higher-ups about his affair with a married woman, it might not get him fired, but it'll tarnish his image. I picture him in that office, forced to face the gossip, maybe even losing an important client if the story spreads. My finger twitches. I can't deny the savage satisfaction that flickers in my gut. But I hesitate. Is this who I want to be? A man consumed by bitterness, poisoning everyone around me. I set my phone aside. My eyes burn with unshed tears. I remember what this house felt like when we first bought it, how Jane and I were so proud to turn it into a home for our growing family. Where did that world go? The next day, I managed to function on autopilot, sending messages to Jane about picking up the boys. I instruct her to meet me in the driveway after their grandparents drop them off. I'll let her see them, kiss them goodnight, but she won't be staying. The day moves slowly, a haze of phone calls and spreadsheets at work, while the sting of betrayal aches beneath my composure. Around 6 p.m., I'm in the driveway. The grandparents pull up, the boys bounding out with big smiles, excited to see me. My chest constricts. They have no idea what's happened. For them, the world is the same. Jane follows in her own car, stepping out gingerly. The boys rush to hug her too. She meets my eyes over their heads, sorrow etched into her face. "Hi, Dad," my older son chirps. "Did you miss us? Mom said we might stay at her friend's house tonight for fun. Is that true?" My teeth clench. "We'll talk inside," I say gently, ruffling his hair. I lead them in. Jane lingers behind me, her gaze pinned to the living room where she no longer belongs. She sets her bag down awkwardly. We stand there in an uneasy triangle, the boys excitedly talking about their camping trip, oblivious to the tension. I muster a smile for them. "Why don't you head upstairs, unpack? I'll be up in a bit." They run off, leaving a hush between Jane and me. She glances at the pictures on the wall, her expression pained. A photo of our wedding day and one of the boys on a beach vacation. I see her eyes cloud with tears again. But I keep my voice firm. "After they go to bed, you're leaving." She nods, swallowing. I understand. Evening passes in a blur. We reheat dinner for the kids, pretend we're just sharing a casual conversation. I feel like an actor reading lines that don't match my true emotions. After they go upstairs, Jane tucks them in, kissing their foreheads. My chest hurts, seeing how deeply she loves them, how natural it is. Once they're asleep, she comes back down, tears streaming silently. "This is killing me," she whispers. I press my lips together, fighting the swirl of pity. "You made your choice. Live with it." She nods, picks up her coat. "I'll call you tomorrow. Thank you for letting me see them." I say nothing, standing stiffly as she slips out the front door. The latch clicks, echoing in the quiet house. I stand there for a long time, hearing my own heartbeat pound. Then I drop onto the couch, pressing my palms over my face, my body trembling with a mixture of grief and anger. The revenge I crave feels hollow now that I see her so broken. There's no victory in this, no triumph, only devastation. Days turn into weeks. Jane sees the kids regularly, but only outside the house or at short visits. Meanwhile, Mike tries to call me, texts me apologies. I never reply. I focus on my job, the kids, keeping the routine stable. But inside, I can't shake the memory of them together. I try to bury myself in tasks, paying bills, checking finances, even the mundane chore of changing light bulbs. My mind always drifts to that day I made breakfast for them, pretending not to know. One late afternoon, a few weeks after the revelation, Jane texts me, "Can we talk? I need to show you something." Curiosity wars with resentment. Finally, I agree to meet her at a park near the waterfront. The day is overcast, the breeze carrying a chill. I spot her on a bench, gazing at the gray waves. Seagulls wheel overhead, their cries echoing. As I approach, she offers a small, sad smile. She's holding an envelope. "Thank you for coming." I stuff my hands in my jacket pockets. "What's that?" She presses her lips together, offering me the envelope. I open it. Inside is a letter from a counselor, a recommendation for therapy. She also slips out a typed letter, an apology in her own words. I skim the first lines, my eyes catching phrases like deep remorse and selfish impulse. My heart tightens. "I've started therapy," she says quietly. "I realized how much damage I caused. I'm trying to figure out if I can salvage anything, even a piece of your respect, if you'll let me." My throat feels dry. I stare at the letter, reading lines about how she never planned to tear our family apart, how she lost herself in her loneliness and wanted to feel desired. There's no justification that can excuse it, but I see the raw sincerity behind her confession. I close the envelope, unsure how to respond. "Why show me this?" She swallows. "Because I know you might go through with the divorce. And maybe that's what has to happen. But I want you to know I'm taking responsibility. I'm not running off with Mike. We haven't been together since that day. I told him we're done, and he's respected that." A swirl of emotions hits me. Relief, anger, sadness. What does it matter now? You two got what you wanted. You got your fling. She winces. "It was never about that." I see it now. I was craving emotional connection, and he gave me attention. I betrayed you. I betrayed our vows. And there's no excuse. But I don't want to lose you completely if there's any chance, if there's any hope left. Tears sting my eyes. I shift my gaze to the choppy water. Seagulls squawk overhead. My chest feels like it's caught in a vice. I gave you everything, Jane. And you threw it away. Even if you ended it, I can't forget what happened. I see it in my head every night. She reaches for my hand, but I withdraw. She lets her arm drop. Her voice trembles. I understand. I'm only asking for a chance to earn some measure of forgiveness, or at least a civil relationship for our sons. You hold all the cards now. I exhale slowly, the wind cold on my cheeks. I need time. I haven't decided yet if I want a final legal end to this. Part of me does. Another part can't imagine not having you in my life at all. That's the twisted thing about love. My eyes burn with unshed tears. I hate what you did, but I can't make myself stop caring. She closes her eyes, tears slipping down her face. I'll give you all the time you need. In the meantime, I'll stay at my friend's. Continue therapy. Let me know if you want to try counseling together. I nod mutely, not trusting myself to speak. The gulls circle overhead, the waves crashing. Eventually, she rises. I'll be here, Ron, in whatever capacity you decide. I'm so sorry. She walks away, leaving me on the bench with the letter in hand. I stare at the words, the confessions of a woman I once believed incapable of such betrayal. My heart churns with conflict. I wanted revenge. I wanted to see her suffer for what she did. But seeing her now, trying to rebuild from the rubble, I'm left feeling hollow. Perhaps the worst revenge of all is forcing her to live every day knowing what she destroyed. A few more weeks pass. We keep things civil for the boy's sake. Mike tries to reach me a couple more times, apparently wanting to apologize in person. I ignore him. He eventually stops calling. I hear through the grapevine he's requested a transfer to another branch of his media company. He'll likely leave Seattle soon, maybe to outrun the guilt. I consider that consequence enough for him, dislodging his life because he broke into mine. Jane persists with therapy. She updates me occasionally, never pushing too hard, just letting me know she's serious about understanding her actions. Meanwhile, I wrestle with the question of our marriage. Some nights, I'm filled with anger, convinced the only choice is divorce. Other nights, I remember the warmth we once shared, how her head fit against my shoulder, how we laughed at silly inside jokes. The duality is a prison. When the final confrontation arrives, it happens quietly. We're in a mediator's office, discussing preliminary steps for a legal separation. Our mediator is a calm older man who outlines possible custody schedules. Jane is pale, nodding numbly. I sit there, stone-faced. The pit in my stomach grows. When I hear the phrase alternate weekends regarding the kids, I feel a surge of despair. Eventually, the mediator leaves us alone for a short break. Jane looks at me, eyes brimming with tears. Ron, I'll do whatever you decide. But please, if there's a tiny thread of hope, just say so. My voice comes out hollow. I can't keep hurting. I can't watch you and wonder if you're truly mine. That's the reality now. My trust is gone. She nods, trembling. I accept that. If you need me to walk away, I will. But if there's even a chance we could rebuild, no matter how small, I'll stay and do the work. I search her face, seeing the woman I fell in love with all those years ago. Pain tears at my insides. How do I know you won't do it again? She shakes her head, tears spilling. I don't have any guarantee beyond the fact that this has wrecked me too. I never want to feel this shame again, and I never want to see you so broken. Something in me cracks. I bury my face in my hands, a sob escaping my throat. She places a tentative hand on my shoulder. I don't push it away this time. My tears spill onto the table. All the anger, humiliation, betrayal swirl together. Finally, I straighten, taking a shaky breath. I hate what you did. I say in a hoarse whisper. Part of me will always hate it. But I loved you for 15 years. We have 2 amazing boys. Maybe for them. I can try therapy. See if the shards of us can be pieced together. If it fails, we sign the papers. But if there's a shred of a chance, I have to explore it. She exhales a shuddering breath, tears sliding down her cheeks. Yes. Anything. I'll do anything. The mediator comes back in. He finds us holding hands across the table, tears in our eyes. We apologize and ask for a delay. No final signature yet. He nods, quietly respectful, leaving the door open for us if we change our minds. We walk out side by side. Outside, the sun is breaking through the clouds. A small watery beam of light hits the sidewalk. Jane slits her arm through mine hesitantly. I let her. My chest is still heavy with the memory of betrayal. But maybe I can channel that anger into a chance at redemption. For the kids, for myself, maybe even for her. In the days that follow, I meet with her counselor. We sit in uncomfortable sessions, dissecting every crack in our marriage. I hate reliving the pain. I hate hearing her talk about the loneliness that drove her to Mike. Sometimes I explode in anger. Sometimes she breaks down sobbing. The counselor guides us, step by brutal step, reminding us that healing is possible, though the scar will remain. I think back to that morning when I made them breakfast. That was the day I discovered just how dark my emotions could get. I remember the bacon sizzling, the eggs flipping, the coffee steaming. I remember the humiliation that devoured me when I realized I was playing gracious host to the man who had invaded my bed. I remember my vow to bring them both to their knees. And, in a way, I did. But vengeance felt hollow when the dust settled, because the person I truly wanted to punish was the one I still loved. It's a long road, full of uncertainty. But I stand at the threshold of a new beginning, one built on honesty so raw it hurts. Whether this marriage survives is unknown, but for now we're trying. And if we fail, at least I'll know I faced my agony and gave it one final chance. I may never forget that day of betrayal, but I refuse to let it define the rest of my life. I guess not every story about betrayal ends with a swift, clean break. Sometimes the biggest revenge is letting the person who wronged you carry the weight of what they did, day after day, while you decide whether to leave them to their guilt or allow them the grueling path to redemption. And in this moment, I choose the latter. Because the pain is already there, and I've learned that no matter how savage the storm, eventually the clouds do break, and the light, hesitant as it may be, can still find its way through.